What's going on? This is Chase Vernon from Trophy Smack and Fantasy Intervention, and you're listening to the Dynasty Hot Seat.
Yes, everybody, hello and welcome back once again to another episode of the Dynasty Hot Seat. It's the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified inferno. And I know what you guys are thinking. How did he manage to get Bradley Cooper on the show? Don't adjust your sets. It is not Bradley Cooper. It may look like him, but it's Chase Vernon. He's the guy over at FF_intervention. He does loads of stuff for the Fantasy Intervention. He does loads of stuff for Trophy Smack as well. He's got things going on at Some Yards. You can find the Fantasy Intervention guys. I believe Chase is a join our circle _ You can find you guys there. And then, you do stuff for Dynasty Nerds. You're in the Scott Fish Bowl every single year. You're giving away Scott Fish Bowl tickets. Man, what don't you do? Thank you so much for coming on the show. How you doing, buddy?
Dude, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on with you. I'm very, very excited to talk about some of the things we're going to discuss. We got the mock draft coming up. I'm stoked for that. And like you said, we got some Scott Fishbowl tickets to give away for Trophy Smack. So very excited about that. We have 10 spots. You guys can find it over there on Twitter at Trophy Smack. Go over there. Make sure you guys follow and check out the post because we're going to be giving it away on Instagram. We're going to be giving it away on TikTok. We're going to be giving it away on Facebook. And of course, Twitter. We're going to be giving away all over the place. So make sure you guys go follow us on all those accounts. We'll do an announcement for each one as to where we're going to be giving it away before we actually do. So excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. A chance to come second behind me in the Scott Fish Bowl. What an absolute treat that is going to be. So brilliant giveaway. And, Chase, you've got also, so much to share with everyone, listening at the minute, including some hints and tips that you got in segment number 1, which is the art of war. So just some advice for Dynasty players, young and old, or anything in between. So what do you got for us?
So I have 2 different things that I talk about every year when Dynasty season arrives and we're about to kick everything off. And one of them is stabilize your future, because the length of a quarterback's value, right? The length of a franchise quarterback who is going to be a stud is so much longer now than what it was back 10 years ago, right? Like, sure, we did have like the Ben Roethlisberger, to an extent. Phillip Rivers was great. But for the most part, you're talking about, anywhere from 8 to 12 years of a franchise quarterback back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's actually extended to be close to 18 or 20 years is what we could see. We could see Patrick Mahomes being a QB1 every single season from now until he turns, 40 years old?
Yeah.
That's 17, 18 years of having fertility from the quarterback position. And then you have guys like maybe Trevor Lawrence or, Trey Lance, somebody like that, where you're going to get Justin Herbert 15, 20 years out of the quarterback position. And that's 15 or 20 years, or I should say that's anywhere from 8 to, maybe 10 years longer than you would get previously. So I think that quarterbacks are tremendously undervalued, especially in single quarterback leagues when it comes to getting your guy. So stabilize your future. That way you don't have to worry about drafting quarterbacks. If a quarterback falls to you in a rookie draft, that's great. Then you end up getting a value, but you don't have to reach for a quarterback. Like this year, if Kenny Pickett, right, who was selected beyond every single quarterback in 2021, right? If he was going in last year's draft, and let's just say Superflex draft, he would be going probably after Zach Wilson or after Mac Jones, depending on which one of those guys went last, right?
Yeah.
And those guys were going in the second round of 2 quarterback leagues last year. It was like the 201, 202, 203, somewhere in that range. Kenny Pickett's going at like the 6th overall pick this year.
Yeah.
Because teams need quarterbacks. So they're reaching for a guy who would have gone probably late 2nd round in 2021. Just because teams need quarterbacks. So stabilize your future so you don't have to freak out and reach for those positions. You can continuously take shots at other positions, and that way you don't have to be wrong on the quarterback position. Because guess what? Most people that are drafting Kenny Pickett are likely going to be selecting a quarterback again within 2 to 3 years. Stabilize your future, get your quarterback.
Yeah,
the other one is getting on the bell curve of production. It's something that I've harped on. I don't even know if the term makes sense, but it makes sense in my head because I coined it. So it's essentially... how like teachers, they grade on a curve, right? They try and get everybody, the same grade based off of whatever the curve is. Well, if you end up trying to get your players right, and you try and get a player who is, let's just say you draft a 26-year-old running back, and then you're drafting maybe rookie wide receivers, or even a 24-year-old running back, and you're drafting
Yeah.
a 21-year-old wide receiver, that typically isn't going to end up meshing well, because by the time that the wide receiver gets into his prime, you're talking about a running back that you do not have to move on from,
Yeah.
and you typically ruin your opportunity to draft a guy early on in the first round next year, where it's very strong with the rookie running back class.
Mm-hmm.
You ruined your chance because you had a running back in his prime, and you had a rookie wide receiver who was good enough to keep you out of last place. So now you're going to end up needing a running back, which means you're going to have to pay up for one. Instead, what you need to do is, if you're drafting and you say take some, younger rookie wide receivers, you should also stay away from running backs, like almost completely.
Yeah.
That way you don't end up ruining your opportunity. Maybe you should take some handcuffs, guys like James Robinson, or maybe a Tyler Algier, somebody along those lines, where you can trade them off and get value. But that way you're not wasting, your draft picks and your ability to lose to get a first overall pick or second overall pick or third overall pick. Meanwhile, you end up getting assets more because you're trading away values. So don't waste your early picks on older running backs if you have young wide receivers. And if you end up having older wide receivers, then you need the young running backs, right? So you want to try and get everybody that's going to produce at their prime within a certain time period. Don't waste your time being stuck in the middle. Don't waste your time trying to push a team through that probably will not win a championship. Sure, you can get lucky one year, but there's a lot bigger chance that you'll get unlucky than you'll get lucky. You'll deal with some injuries and your team's not going to make it. Try to get everybody on the same level of production when they're going to be in the peak, versus trying to piece together a team that might end up having a chance of winning.
Yeah, I think that is so important. Like, and just wait for those, like, the stars to align, kind of, right? You're like this is my chance, and really, like, jump on it then as well. And if I don't think I'm going to win in the next 2 years, I'm selling every running back I have. I'm just like, get them off my team, because they're going to be gone by the time I'm ready to win anyway. So yeah, just get rid of them, and I'll replace them later. So I think that's really, really strong advice, and allow your team to understand when those, like, what do you call it again? Sorry, the
bell curve of production.
The bell curve of production. Yeah, exactly. Just making sure that everyone is at their prime, ready to go, and understanding that it can be quite tricky, because obviously a 24-year-old running back isn't the same as a 24-year-old wide receiver, and definitely isn't the same as a 24-year-old quarterback. So it's understanding when players will hit their different peaks and troughs. So I absolutely love that as advice, Chase. It's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, do you have any more tips for us, or we're gonna get into the heat of it?
We can go into this. I can talk all day about dynasty strategy, but essentially, I think the last thing is and people talk about this way too prematurely, is like selling players before they end up hitting their prime, so that way you return value. Sure, you can always stack and you can always build, but a lot of these dynasty leagues, I mean, everyone that I've been in has lasted for at least 3 to 4 seasons minimum. And they're still going. Like I haven't had a dynasty league that I've gotten out of yet, or that has folded. But I know that a lot of these dynasty leagues that you're not close with, like people you're not tight with, or whatever the case is, they end up folding after like 3 to 4 seasons. So trying to prematurely sell a guy when he's about to hit his peak is sometimes asinine, and ends up creating volatility with your roster. What people don't realize is, if you win for like 2 seasons, right? Let's say you get first place for 2 seasons, that essentially buys you like 8 to 10 years in your league, sometimes 12, depending on what first place gets. Even second place, if you get second place twice, it'll buy you 5 or 6 years in your league, like in league entry fees, for you to be able to float in the future. So if you can win, and you can go out and you can win now, then just go take that money, that while you can, and then just go rebuild your team the next year. Like, you don't need to sell right away. Like, you don't need to get the most amount of value, because you're winning money to buy you into the future. So I know that people like to try and get ahead of the curve and make sure they always have players going into their prime, and all of a sudden they have the most dominant roster, but that could take 8 to 10 years to do so.
Yeah.
So don't sell too soon. Don't sell in their prime. Get the prime out of them. Sure, you might end up moving from 2 first-round picks down to 1 first-round pick or something, but guess what? You have a 50% chance of hitting on a first-round pick anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, and that hit might not be as good as what the player you would have gotten in the prime is. I understand trying to get off an asset before it depreciates, But I think there's a premature point where it's like, hey, you still want to win money. You still want to try and win at least 1 year, maybe two. Don't move it just to get off of a depreciating asset. Like, I get selling stocks and all that, but if you can cash in while you can cash in, I'd
Yeah.
rather do that.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to ride players out, right? You just got to take them into the sunset and, know that by the time they're done, they've won you some championships. And that's really what matters.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
100%. And speaking of picking players that can win some championships, let's get right into the heat of it now. We're going to jump into segment number 2, which is the hot seat mock draft, and it's coming right up. Okay, so here we are. It is, the hottest part of the hot seat. We got Chase sitting firmly in the hot seat now, ready for his mock draft. How are you feeling there, Chase? Is that seat warming up, or are you calm, cool, collected?
Dude, my window was open earlier. My whole room is hot. This is making it so much hotter right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through the whole show, but I'm going to do my best, Connor.
Yeah, I have full faith in you, mate. I have full faith. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask you, in an ideal world, if you got to choose where you would begin in a startup draft, what position would you choose and why would you choose it?
So in a startup draft, I'm pretty much cool with any of the 2 wide receivers in Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I'm cool with Jonathan Taylor, and I'm cool with probably about 5 or 6 of these quarterbacks. It ends at probably Lamar Jackson. However, I want a chance to come back and get a guy like Javonte Williams, get a guy like CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Swift. So I want to take something closer towards the end, but not something where it leaves me without an elite level talent with the first overall pick. So I am going to say that I want to pick number 9.
Number 9, yeah. So you're right. So you should get some of those elite players and get right round again to get another great talent. So let's get slot number 9 put in, and we'll see who falls to us. Hopefully one of those elite players you talked about, and then we'll get another one on the back end as well. So let's start the draft, and we'll see who's going to fall and what it's going to look like.
All right. Are we going to be listening to the wows on the sleeper app?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm just going to go in. Here we go. It started now. Yeah, those wows are. I remember when I first started Sleeper and my first draft, I was like, "Am I playing with children? Are these all?"
You can actually go up to the top on the settings and get rid of those noises.
Oh yeah,
no, you might have done it.
Yeah, no, I got rid of them. They're bad. They're off on mine. I don't know if it's coming through.
Maybe you heard it from mine. That was probably exactly what it was, because I have it up on my end. All right, so right now, I mean, I was hoping Jamar Chase would make it to me. I'd much rather have him than Lamar Jackson at this point. Lamar Jackson being a rushing quarterback, losing his top target makes me a little bit nervous. But I still think that, and I almost took pick number 8 too. I was almost like, you know what, let's go with pick number 8 just in case. But I was like, I'm still cool with Lamar Jackson. I think that he has a phenomenal year this year. He has from week 11 through week 17. His schedule is absolutely insanely easy. So this looks like it might be a win priority type year. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson and now try and build towards a team that gives me a winning potential in year 1. So that way I can kind of buy my future entries into this league.
Yeah, I really like Lamar Jackson. Like you said, especially for this year. I think I've sort of heard or seen a few people say, people asking what's your hot take for this year? And loads of people have been like, oh, Lamar Jackson, MVP again. So it seems to be like a consensus that he's going to have a real stellar year coming up. And I have hit the pick. It's just, there we go. It took a little while to process. And we're hoping for another elite talent coming right back to us. So I'll pause the draft so we can have a look and see. You got people like Christian McCaffrey and Deshaun Watson, lots of question marks over them, obviously, and some other players as well. Is anyone standing out to you there, Chase?
This is, let's see, my sleeper app just force closed on me. My bad. We're looking at some top tier talents right now, but a lot of these will end up depreciating. I know that I said I want to win now, but at the same time, I don't want to take a piece that's going to drop off a rock if he ends up getting injured this year or something like that. I still want to make sure I maintain my value. And, a guy like Austin Eckler could end up falling off. A guy like Christian McCaffrey is obviously right there. I really like DeAndre Swift. He does make me somewhat nervous. With his injury history thus far, and he could end up being the next Miles Sanders if he doesn't actually put together an excellent year this year. But
Yeah.
he tied for first in targets per game with 6 for the running back position. They figured it out, and he increases his efficiency off the ground, which I do think happens. I think that DeAndre Swift could absolutely be a home run. He's a little bit of a tougher schedule towards the tail end of the season, I believe. But I think I want to go with DeAndre Swift at this point,
Yeah.
and hope it all works out.
Yeah, let's go DeAndre Swift. Is that a DeAndre Swift jersey behind you? Have I spied that? Is
It
that?
is. I don't
It
know which
is,
side I'm
yeah.
wearing to, but it
Yeah.
is. I love DeAndre Swift.
Nice. Yeah,
I
so
love
let's
Javonte
get
Williams too, but he didn't make it back.
yeah, Javonte not quite making it back to us, unfortunately. But yeah, DeAndre Swift, I really like. And yeah, I think he's just going to continue to have a really big year, especially with Jared Goff there as well. I think Jared Goff obviously doesn't have that elite arm strength to push it too far downfield. That's why Jameson Williams looks like Jared Goff killed his auntie or something before he got drafted. So I think Johnny Swift's going to continue to see all those targets just with those little dump off passes. So I think that's a great pick at position number 2, and we're right back on it here at position number 3. You got Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill sitting up at the top of the ADP list, and there's still so much talent here in round number 3. So anyone standing out to you at all at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, Stephon Diggs, if we're going for win now, Stephon Diggs has that potential, but he is a little bit older. I think he's, 28 or going to be 28 before the season starts.
Yeah.
Right around that range. We have Tyreek Hill in a weird situation with Miami. We don't know what's going to happen. And if they utilize him like Deebo Samuel, that'd be excellent. But at the same time, like, that worries me to an extent, just because I don't think that he has the same size that Deebo has in order to be able to run the ball like Deebo was running.
Yeah.
T. Higgins really is interesting here, but does he really have the upside that I want from a wide receiver 1? I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would look to trade out, to be honest with you. I'd be looking to move on from this pick and to trade out and see if I can get multiple wide receivers in the 3rd round or maybe the late 3rd or early 4th round.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a guy that I believe in for 2022, and that's going to be Stephon Diggs. He's going to see the targets necessary, and I think the Buffalo Bills team is going to be the best team that we've seen in franchise history in terms of regular season record. I have them right now notched at 14-3, so Stephon Diggs is the way to go with this one.
Yeah, I like Stephon Diggs. Like you talked about in your advice as well. You just get that money right away, and Stephon Diggs is a player that can get you that money back right away, and you can sort of sort your future out a bit more after that. But you've got like a young team before as well, like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, kind of sneaky young as well. Like he's been in the league for a while, but he's still quite young. And Johnny Swift, obviously a young talent as well. And Stephon Diggs a bit older, but he can get you that money definitely. So let's get him locked in, and we're right back on the board again with Nick Chubb, George Kittle, Saquon Barkley sitting there as well. At any stage, Chase, it's always an interesting point around this. At any stage, you kind of go, I need to try and sort this position out. I need to look at this position. Or are you just like, these are the players I want. I'll worry about positions later.
I do like to build. Typically, I like to go wide receiver heavy first and then figure out my running backs later because you can always go 0 running back. But there's a guy on here that I do really want. And I talked about the schedule already for the Ravens. It's a cakewalk. I mean, finishing up with the Steelers in week 17, if you can get there. The Steelers, if you don't remember, were last place in the division, in the league for rushing, or against the rush, I should say. They're last place. So if you can get a guy who faces them in week 14 to get you into the playoffs, in the week 17 in the finals, I don't understand how you can't take me if you're trying to win now. J.K. Dobbins, I know it's a reach, and I hate reaching. I'd rather take a value, but J.K. Dobbins is my go-to right here. I thought about Justin Fields. I don't trust it. I want to go wide receiver Drake London, but we don't know what's going to happen. There's question marks around that. We know that the Ravens want to run. They told us that they want to run in the past. They had to pass this past year because they were in so many negative game scripts compared to their previous one. Plus, they didn't have their top 2 running backs. So they were literally piecing together guys off the street just to be able to run the ball. I mean, and they still ran the ball a decent amount, not as much as they want to. They ended up trading away their starting wide receiver in Marquise Brown, right? They ended up buffering the defense. They brought in the right pieces to show us that they want to run the ball. J.K. Dobbins is going to be a beast this year, and he has a very advantageous schedule from weeks 11 through 17. I want to pair him up with Lamar Jackson and see if we can just run away with it, figuratively, of course.
Nice. I love that as well. Like, really paying attention to that schedule when you're in that win now mode, like going like, well, let's think about how I'm actually going to win now. Let's look at those championship weeks. Let's look at those playoff weeks, and pairing up those two whenever they have a favorable matchup as well. I think that's really insightful and really really good tip for anyone starting up now is look out for those easier schedules like the Ravens have, and J.K. Dobbins, someone when he got injured last year, I was buying as many shares of J.K. Dobbins as I could because he looked great up until that injury, and I think he'll just go from strength to strength next year.
Yeah, so they have, all right, week 11, I think it's the Jaguars. And then they have the Broncos, whose linebackers are completely decimated. Steelers, who sucked up against the run. The Browns, who are decent up against the run, but, we don't know what's going to happen with that. We don't know if they're going to have to keep up. And typically it's a divisional matchup, so it's the Browns. Then they have the Falcons, the Steelers again. I mean, that schedule is just sexy. Like, that's a league-winning schedule. And it left me with a bunch of players who I love here at wide receiver.
Yep.
I'm going to start out with Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman is going to be one of the most underdrafted players for 2022 and beyond.
Yep.
He's a force to be reckoned with. He struggled a little bit in his rookie year, but they added an amazing quarterback, a significant upgraded quarterback, and then just Alec Pierce at wide receiver. They don't have any tight ends of note that are pass catching tight ends, unless you want to include like Kyle Granson or whatever. But no, like he is the only pass catcher on that team outside of the running backs. They're going to let Matt Ryan throw, and Matt Ryan is going to be targeting Michael Pittman a ton. I would not be shocked to see Michael Pittman get over 140 targets this year.
Yeah, I think Michael Pittman's going to have a huge year. He's already coming out and saying like, "Oh, Matt Ryan is like a psychic. Like he just puts it exactly where you're going to run. It's like the ball is going right there." So they've obviously got that like connection started up already. And yeah, I think Pittman's going to have a huge year. Sort of sneaky candidate for breaking into that wide receiver 1 category when it's all said and done, I think.
I think he will end up finishing as wide receiver 1 this year.
Love it. And, we still got loads of time up there.
Interesting, because we just saw a bunch of quarterbacks go off the board. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. And honestly, like there's not a quarterback in sight, I don't think, for a minute here, is there?
Not for a while. Tom Brady's the next one up, and Kirk Cousins, and then Kenny Pickett, who we talked about earlier, is there as well.
They should make it around, I believe, to our next picks.
You'd think so.
Correct. Yeah, they got, I mean, there's about 20 picks or so in between before like Kirk Cousins goes up. So I'm going to take a guy who I think is going to be underrated. He might miss the beginning of the season, might not. If he doesn't, that's amazing. If he does, it's not a big deal because you have a solid enough team right now to be able to still make a run. If he is on the IR, he starts on the 6-game pup, whatever. I'm going to go with Chris Godwin over there, who has been a stud at wide receiver, led the team in targets from the majority of the year.
Yep.
He's the guy to go to over there at this point in the draft. What are we in the 5th round? 6th round? 6th round.
Yeah, we're in round number 6. Yeah, wow, Godwin in 6 is great.
Yeah, he's still young. We already took Stephon Diggs, so this is going to be something where we win this year. We go for the win this year. Maybe next year, depending on how much we're dominating and how we're looking at things. But after that year, we're probably going to end up selling. I'd probably try and, like I said, I'd win this year and then possibly next year. If I don't win this year, I'm just going to sell all my pieces and try and get as many first-round picks for 2024 as possible, maybe 2025, and go for that so that I don't end up, bleeding out too much. But this is definitely something as to where, like, hey, I need to win at least this first year in order to consider this a profitable roster. If it's not profitable, you just need to move on, cut your losses, and dominate the 2024 draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like we're going to end up quite good at the minute with Pittman and Godwin and Dobbins locked up in the last 3 picks. I mean, that is just, I think Godwin and Mike Evans as well going in round number 6 as well. I don't know, people are getting put off because I think it's Brady's last year. I just think that's quite low for both of those guys.
Oh, man, the pick before us took my pick. James Conner would be the perfect one. All right, so now I have to decide if I want to solidify my wide receiver because it is 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, flex, or super flex. So I could end up splitting my wide receivers, but there is one guy that I really like. He actually outproduced or was very close to outproducing Mark Andrews at the same age that Mark Andrews was producing, and that's Dalton Schultz.
Oh, yeah.
Over there for the Cowboys. He should be the primary target, and I actually have him finishing as tight end 4 this year, above Mark Andrews, believe it or not. So
that's very spicy.
Yeah, or maybe it's tight end 3 and Mark Andrews is tight end 4. I think that's might be how I have it finishing up the season. I think that Dalton Schultz is going to outproduce everybody's expectations and be a stud this year. I really like Amari Cooper here, and I'm kind of nervous about not taking a quarterback,
Yeah.
especially nervous about that. But I'm gonna play the roulette. Actually, what do the teams after us have
Yeah, let's have a look.
currently?
So
So two out
team
of the three
11,
teams already
yeah.
have two quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to try and fill out the roster. Two of them have tight ends though too. So neither one's going to draft a tight end. So we could play the roulette of will team 11, if team 11 takes a quarterback and the other two teams don't, then I'm great. There's definitely no
Yeah.
chance that team 10 or team 11 is going to take a tight end. So then
No.
I have to say, hey, will team 12 take a tight end? They'll either take a tight end or Amari Cooper, but team 10 could take a tight end. I know this is tough for people, so sorry if they're not keeping up. But
this is what everyone has to do. This is what everyone does at home. They're like, man, this guy might take this guy might fall to him. So it's always nice and reassuring, I think, to see other people doing the same thing that we all do at home as well, like thinking that in our heads.
yeah, and then you have to worry about the comeback. This is not just one pick, this is two.
Yeah.
I'm going to play the fact that I don't think that we'll see two of these teams take a quarterback, or two of these next 6 picks will be a quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the tight end position.
Yep.
And I'm going to take Dalton Schultz here.
And we're hoping not to see any red. So let's take Dalton Schultz, and we don't want to see any red fly off the board. Cooper, ready to go. We thought Team 11 might take a quarterback.
Awesome. There we go.
Perfect. Played it absolutely perfectly, yeah.
Now, I would have been okay with Pat Fryermuth, by the way, which is
Yeah.
why I almost ended up going that route. But I think that Dalton Schultz has so much more potential in 2022, and Pat Fryermuth is more of a 2023, 2024 guy. And then I would have been okay with Dallas Goedert too, to an extent, if we ended up in really bad spot. But yeah, I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins here. Kirk Cousins should end up lighting this year up, and maybe we can grab an Adam Thielen late at a value because nobody really wants him in Dynasty.
Yeah, I don't understand. Adam Thielen's constantly overlooked for whatever reason. But yeah, Kirk Cousins as well. Kirk Cousins is one of the most popular players on this show because everybody loves Kirk Cousins as their second quarterback because he's so safe, he's so secure, and you just trust him.
I would have liked to have Tom Brady, so I could have stacked him with Chris Godwin. Like, that would have been sick. That could have been a championship winning selection right there. That's why I almost went with Tom Brady, but I'm okay because Kirk Cousins probably has a couple more years left than Tom Brady does.
Yeah, I'd say so. And we got right back on the action here again in round number 9. Gabe Davis sitting up at the top. Gabe Davis seems to be splitting opinion a little bit amongst the Dynasty community. What are your thoughts on Gabe Davis from the Bills?
I like Gabe Davis a lot. I always have. He was one of my rookie selections in a lot of different leagues that I had. I liked Isaiah Hodgins, who was also selected by the Bills. So I thought that they would have a great battle as to who was going to be the number 2 or number 3 wide receiver for the Bills over the next few years. Gabriel Davis won that battle. And actually, I want to take him, and I want to put him up there with Stephon Diggs. And I know that you could be betting against yourself at the same time. I think this is going to be the highest scoring offense in the league. And I don't think they're going to be running the ball nearly as much. I think they're going to ask Josh Allen to stay in the pocket a little bit more, take care of his body, because they're going to need him for the playoff run. And I see them throwing a lot more downfield to Gabriel Davis. He's my pick.
Nice. So let's get Gabe Davis locked in. And yeah, he is on the cusp of that real breakout year. He kind of flashed a little bit last year, obviously, but there's so much. The Bills are going to have so much to the ball next year. They're going to be, scoring so many points, so many touchdowns. And you think Gabe Davis is going to get a little bit more of that pie now that, they've lost Cole Beasley. So hopefully a big year coming up for Gabe Davis.
If you include the playoffs, he's actually leading the 2020 wide receiver class. Yeah, that was 2020, right? Yeah, the 2020 wide receiver class in touchdowns.
Wow.
He's one ahead of Justin Jefferson.
That is crazy. More than
Isn't
Jefferson,
it?
more than CeeDee Lamb, more than all those guys. Wow.
He's leading. You have to include the playoffs, but he's leading them in touchdowns. All right, so now we're looking at Brandon Cooks, which would be a win now. Chase Claypool, who I really like for this year, but I can't do it with Brandon Cooks just sitting there on the board. Brandon Cooks is so much better for 2022, and like we said, we're going for the win now. Chase Claypool could also fall off if he doesn't see it, but I see Chase Claypool actually becoming the big slot that they will utilize in this system. If we look at like what Atlanta's doing, very, very similar, where they're going to have a
Yeah.
big slot receiver with Drake London. They're going to have
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts, the tight end. They're going to have big physical receivers on
Big,
the
big.
inside.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool is going to be that big physical receiver. Don't forget, they were talking about him possibly switching to tight end before he was drafted. You know, a
Yeah.
team might take him and ask him to play the tight end role. That's not the case. I know that they're saying that Pickens is coming in to replace him, but Chase Claypool played more or a higher percentage in the slot more than any other receiver on the Steelers that is still on the team. So he will likely slide into the big slot role. They'll probably move him all over the field, but he at least is
Yeah.
going to see some targets over there. However, if he does bust, you're screwed. Brandon Cooks,
Yeah.
if you want to make a second year run, if you win this year, then Brandon Cooks is valuable. However, Brandon Cooks won't be worth more than the third after this year. Still going to take Brandon Cooks and hope that he repays the value that we're taking him with in year one.
Yeah, I really like Brandon Cooks there as well, especially, like Gabe Davis, as good as he has looked, there is sort of that riskier element to him, and Brandon Cooks kind of just, you're kind of, hedging your bets there a little bit. So if Gabe Davis doesn't quite pan out, that Brandon Cooks is going to have a good season. He always has a good season, so he's good that you can slot him in there in your wide receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, if you could trade a 2022 mid to late third round, we'll say mid third round pick, second round pick, I'm sorry, for Brandon Cooks, you do it every time. Just because Jahan Dotson's on the board and he's a hot name right now, that's the only reason why people are even considering, guys like Jahan Dotson to move up. But he's not. Brandon Cooks is worth an early second right now, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
we got some quarterbacks sitting up at the top there as well. I think most teams have taken 2 quarterbacks. So you got you're like Matt Ryan and Davis Mills, and Malik Willis is up there for some reason as well. And then you got some tight ends and running backs. Anyone standing out for you there, Chase?
Yeah. So what I really want to do is I want to get Matt Ryan to pair with Michael Pittman.
Yep.
Because I think that would be sick. But at the same time, I already took my second quarterback. And I really, really, really want Tyler Algier because he could be a guy who sees the biggest uprise in value from now into the middle part of next year. If Tyler Algier ends up earning a role and he's only playing behind Darrell Williams, it's Darrell Williams and Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson is a 31-year-old running back now who has never played running back until last year and ended up playing 8 games before he ended up getting hurt because he's 31 years old. Then you have a Darrell Williams who's never been able to stay healthy his entire career, who also only had more than 10 rushes one time in his career, I believe, or maybe there was one season in his career.
Yeah, he's a pass catcher.
Yeah, so you have a guy who is a plotter, and I don't like plotters, but you have a guy who will have a direct path to success if something happens to Patterson, or if Tyler Algier just looks better than Patterson running the ball. So, don't forget, he led the league in yards after contact in college for the years that he was in. Yards after contact per carry, I think he was second or third. And this guy was very, very, very good in college. I know he played at a lesser school, but I don't really care because of the fact that, hey, running backs, they just need to see a little bit of upside and they become valuable. We look at 2 guys down from Tyler Algier and James Robinson. And James Robinson had even a crazier situation happen where he went undrafted. But guess what? Leonard Fournette got cut. And then we had the COVID happen. And all of a sudden, James Robinson went from an undrafted player in your dynasty leagues to a guy that you could probably get a first round pick for, if not a first and a second. So could Tyler Algier go from a late second round guy, early third round pick, which is where he's going right now, to a first round pick if he ends up getting the starting job and runs for 80 yards and 20 yards worth receiving and gets a touchdown in one game? Yeah, you could probably end up flipping him to the Cordell Patterson owner who's freaking out because that was a win now team. And now he needs the player. So you can get a first and a second round pick for that guy. And that's what I would do. I would never hold on to Tyler Algier because of the draft capital, but he could end up increasing the value. So now what do we do? Do we end up taking Tyler Algier and hope that either Davis Mills falls to us or Matt Ryan falls to us? Or do we take Matt Ryan because he's obviously the superior quarterback here and hope that Tyler Algier falls to us? So I was looking at the draft board and both these teams have 3 running backs. So they not only have their starters, but they also have the backups. Meanwhile, they already have both their starters for the super flex position. If it was 2 quarterback, however, they would still need a backup for the quarterback position. They don't have, it's not 2 quarterbacks, it's super flex. I'm going to take my shot with Tyler Algier. Ramondre Stevenson, by the way, is also on the board, and so is Adam Thielen. But I'm going to go with Tyler Algier here and hope that we see a bump in value, and then also hope that Matt Ryan and Davis Mills make it back to us.
I love it. I love the strategy. It worked perfectly last time. So let's see if it works once again for us. So let's get Tyler Algier.
I'm nervous.
It's getting hot, right? It happens to everyone. Don't worry.
It is. And also Carson Wentz is still on the board, who could offer us a little bit of value. So
we're looking perfect. Wow. And look at that. Alex Pierce, who we were just like having a go at a while ago. He's the guy that comes up before. That's like a chef's kiss, right? You're like, someone took Alex Pierce of all people.
I still like Alec Pierce,
yeah,
but it's too early for him to be going at this like phase. I know that he has the draft cap on and all, but like it's a guy who didn't create separation, and they already have a guy like that on the roster. I'm sure they want to get bigger to help run the ball, but I mean he's gonna be blocking a lot. So, all right, let's go with Matt Ryan. Woo!
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Ryan fell to us, absolutely perfect. So we got him locked in. You got like Cousins and Ryan, so you got like the safest houses like quarterbacks.
And Davis Mills was on the board too, and he played well last season. But if he ends up bombing the season and the Texans finish in the bottom like 3, which is very likely, we could see easily the Texans take a quarterback and Davis Mills is gone. So he has just as much future value as Matt Ryan does.
Yeah, there's a high chance you end up with like CJ Stroud and someone at the Texans next year just because they'll have that. Well, actually, no. Didn't they have they just ruined all of their drafts like from who was the last GM? What was his name? Bill O'Brien. Didn't Bill O'Brien just ruin the Texans for years? Do they have any first round picks next year?
Yeah, they do. It's finally the first year that they get it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and you still got those guys. Those guys are still there, those quarterbacks, along with lots of other position players as well. So,
and this is actually going to be my point. Is like this is the cheapest time that you can find quarterbacks is in the draft. Yeah. Like after that, in Superflex leagues, they just get more expensive. So you can turn and flip a quarterback after like 2 or 3 weeks. After one of the starters ends up getting lost, you can flip them because now we own an eighth of the quarterback market, and there's 12 teams, and we're going to end up having an eighth of the quarterback market at this point.
Yeah.
So if we end up taking that eighth of the quarterback market, we automatically drive up the value of what that market is because most people will not trade the backup to a super flex league if the team's competitive. However, if a competitive team only drafts 2 quarterbacks, they're screwed on a bye week. They're screwed in the playoffs. They're screwed if a player gets hurt. So I'm going to take Davis Mills here in hopes that we have a chance to flip him. And if one of our guys gets hurt, then guess what? We still have a backup at the quarterback position.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with Davis Mills as well, he's almost like the perfect pick here too because you've got you just drafted like Matt Ryan as well. So if Davis Mills does pan out, you got your replacement for Matt Ryan ready to go straight into your team, straight into your lineup.
Yep, I love it.
Yeah, and
let's take another quarterback. No, I'm just kidding. We need to actually finish our team, finish the roster construction of our team. And what are we sitting at? We have every position filled.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I think you do. Let's have a check. Yeah, we got every position filled, and we got a couple of guys on our bench as well.
All right, so let's check this out.
I'll just show you flex on here for the screen. So we'll get rid of quarterbacks for now. We'll just put all the other positions as well.
Let's go to our team real quick. Let's look at our team.
Sweet. Let's have a look. So you got Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Diggs and Pittman and Godwin, Schultz, Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks, Kirk Cousins, Tyler Algier, Matt Ryan, and Davis Mills. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions still to fill.
Okay, so now we have to decide if we want to grab other people's handcuffs so that way we could see an increase in value. But we've built a very valuable team. Mm-hmm. So now we have to decide, do we go get talent or do we go get value in hopes to continue to improve the team? All right, so let's go back to the players real quick. And David Njoku, talented player. Khalil Herbert is a handcuff that I really like. Yeah. Kenny Gainwell is actually a sexy name that I think could pop, and that offers both value and it offers upside because we look at the Eagles and they ran the most in the league last year. They can only get more efficient as they add weapons and defenses can't load the box. Yeah. So let's go ahead and go with Kenny Gainwell, and if Miles Sanders, who has not been able to stay healthy, gets hurt, maybe we have a starting running back so that's a handcuff as well.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that about Miles Sanders. Like Miles Sanders just cannot stay healthy. He's always got these little injuries coming back and forth all the time. And Kenny Gainwell. I was a little afraid last year, for some reason, the Eagles were playing Boston Scott ahead of Kenny Gainwell, and I was like, "Are you guys trying to lose? What are you do?" I couldn't understand it or wrap my head around
It
it. I
was
don't know if you
so
heard anything about it.
confusing
Yeah,
because whenever Miles Sanders was healthy, Kenny Gainwell played. Whenever he wasn't healthy,
yeah,
he didn't play. But he was so proficient whenever he did get the opportunities. They want him to get a little bit of size. They want him to get some experience, and they didn't want to, I guess, risk any kind of injury to the stud that he could be. That's what I'm going to
yeah,
keep telling myself at least.
yeah,
All right, so we have Khalil Shakur, which we already have enough Buffalo receivers. I don't want to bet
yeah,
against myself by taking another Buffalo receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, if he didn't do it with Rodgers, I don't see why he's going to do it with Mahomes.
yeah,
Donovan Peoples-Jones, I really like moving forward, especially for dynasty leagues. But if he doesn't perform this year, he could see a complete drop off in value to where he won't have any moving forward. And so I
yeah.
might be able to scoop him up off the free agency if Deshaun Watson is suspended for the full season. So I'll be able to pick him up after if he's even with the Browns at that point.
Yeah,
Um, Tyquan Thornton, I don't even know what to expect with this guy.
yeah,
It's tough. Like this is the round where it gets super gross. And although I see
yeah,
some values here, like I don't like picking in this round just because some players are just ranked too high due to their previous perspective or their what people think about these guys in comparison to what they've actually done. So it's
yeah.
perceived perspective versus actual perspective.
Mm.
So let's scroll down a little bit below like Van Jefferson.
So I'll keep there. So
Yeah,
Brevin Jordan,
all
the
these
first guy
guys.
underneath. Yeah,
I love Brevin Jordan. I think we can wait. I do want to take him, but I want to take him with the next pick.
yeah.
I want to just peep some of these guys. There's nobody I really like in this range. So let's scroll back up and let's go ahead and go with God. Evan Ingram in this offense is sexy too, though, for this season.
I can't stop drafting Evan Ingram. I've got an actual problem. I can't stop. Every time I see him around here, I'm like, I'll take Evan Ingram here every single time, and I can't stop.
Dude, let's do Evan Ingram and then let's do Brevin Jordan.
Nice. I like it. Just lock up those value tight ends.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
get
get
him.
him. Fuck it.
Nice. Evan Ingram locked in. Because yeah, I just see the talent whenever and I think that the Giants are a bit of a mess, most years, and he's got Trevor Lawrence throwing him. I don't think he's had a better quarterback throwing to him than Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, he could have a massive year, and he's got no competition there. So yeah, I think he should have a good year. So we've locked him in, and Brevin Jordan is still there. Is that who you're still thinking, or is anyone lit up
Yeah,
around
it's
him?
Brevin Jordan. It's Brevin
Yeah,
Jordan's the answer here. We already have the stacks over there. We already have Davis Mills. If the Texans end up blowing up, that would be great. But real quick about the Evan Ingram pick. Um, Evan Ingram, I'm sorry, Doug Peterson has never had a wide receiver lead the team in receptions as a head coach.
wow.
It's always been tight ends and running backs. So you want to grab the Travis Etienne's, where you can. You want to grab
Yeah,
the Evan Ingrams where you can because that's what they utilize. You utilize the running backs and the tight ends, not the wide receivers. Yeah, let's
that
go
is
with Brevin.
that is a crazy stat. He's never had a wide receiver lead the team in receptions.
Yeah, it might be receiving yards
Yes.
too, but it's definitely receptions.
Yeah. Wow.
I was doing some research on it the other day.
That is really cool. I would have never guessed that at all. So let's get Brevin Jordan locked in to go ahead with Evan Ingram in our team, and we're coming into sort of the last two rounds, and this is kind of just the hit and hope rounds, right? It's just kind of like swing for the fences. People getting their last quarterbacks. We've already done that, so no real need to do that as well. It's a gigantic quarterback run coming off, and Khalil Shakir is still sitting up there. Are you wanting to see what quarterbacks are left? I can flick those on too if you want, or are you happy just to stay with
No, I'm
with
happy
flex
right
spots?
here. Actually, I mean, who's on there? I'm just curious at this
This
point.
Jimmy Garoppolo could be the starter. You never know with all the stories about Trey Lance. Trubisky again could be. Drew Lock probably is the starter, but for how long?
I think Trubisky's going to be the starter too. Sam
Yeah,
Howell is very interesting there as well. He could end up taking over by the end of the season. Him and De'Ami Brown could end up having that college connection that they had. We could see them absolutely go off. So if we had a taxi squad, I'm taking Sam Howell and throwing him on the taxi squad. But there's a chance that round 18, like he doesn't end up like, it's possible by around 18 that he ends up on the free agent waivers, and so I'll
Yeah,
take him at that point because it's only 18
yeah,
picks. But yeah, if I had a taxi squad, I'm taking him. I'm throwing him there.
nice.
Let's go ahead and let's go back to the flex positions.
Yeah, so Khalil
And
Shakir and still sit up there, and a couple of other guys we've spoken about already.
can we look at the running backs
Yeah,
real
of
quick?
course. So Ty Chandler up there, they I got Minnesota. There you got Daryl Williams, who we kind of talked about as well. No, yeah, is that Daryl Williams or is that the other Williams? Yeah, it is Daryl Williams, who we talked about
No,
earlier too.
yeah. Wait, who was I talking about? Okay. Anyways, so I might have meant Damian Williams.
Yeah, I
As
always get them
for
confused as well.
as for the running back position, I think the biggest mistake that people make is they roster too many wide receivers that they hope will explode, right? Like you said
Yeah,
it earlier, you swing for the fences and you hope somebody goes off. But like it's pretty rare that a wide receiver ends up performing at a high level that is drafted,
yeah,
in the last few rounds of the draft. It's more likely that you're going to end up seeing an injury to a running back, and a running back, as long as they're somewhat okay, like they'll end up fitting in. Now, I do I do not like Keyshawn Vaughn all that much. And I know that they end up drafting a rookie, but Tom
yeah,
Brady does not like rookies at all. Like he hates rookie running backs with a passion. And although he doesn't like Keyshawn Vaughn, I think that there's a chance that Keyshawn Vaughn sees some touches if Leonard Fournette can't stay healthy. If they use Leonard Fournette like they have been, he's not going to stay healthy. I'm going to go with Keyshawn Vaughn here. I know
yeah.
it's
I
a
like
little
that.
bit of a shocking pick, but it offers me more value if he does hit,
Yep.
and then I can trade him away and grab value that way than if we took like a Tyson, whatever his name is, and ends
That,
up Tyson Thornton, right?
yeah,
Um,
Tyquan Thornton.
or
Yeah,
Tyquan Thornton. Yeah, like I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I don't see the value there. He's going to be a wind sprinter. I'm going to go with
Yeah.
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah, Keyshawn Vaughn getting in, he talks about Leonard Fournette staying healthy, and Leonard Fournette does not look healthy right now. I'm sure he'll get himself in shape for the season, but yeah, he's not looking too hot at the minute. Keyshawn Vaughn might be playing sooner than we think if he doesn't get himself sorted out.
Yeah.
And we're now in our final pick. I'll put on all positions. Oh wow, look at that! Sam Howell is right at the top, who we talked about earlier. Is he still tempting for you, or is there somebody else you're looking for?
Nah, I'll wait for somebody to drop him because what's going to happen is
Yeah,
it's going to get close to the season. There's going to be injuries that happen. Sam Howell could end up on a team that needs to find some roster space to pick up a free
yeah,
agent to start. I'll wait for that person to drop Sam Howell. I want to go with Mark Ingram over here because there's a chance that Alvin Kamara gets suspended to start off the year. Mark
yeah,
Ingram could be a starter, and like I
yeah.
said, there's too many times where teams draft too many wide receivers. I don't want to, fill that up too much. I'm going with Mark Ingram here in hopes that I can get a starting running back in week 1.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get Mark Ingram locked in. He looked okay when he had to fill in last year, and yeah, he could end up being that starter at the start of the season. So let's get him locked in as our final
Not
pick.
what's that rookie's name that they picked up, the undrafted guy for the Saints, and everybody's like, oh, this could end up being the guy that takes over if Kamara gets. Dude, I don't remember his name.
Alex Smith, was it, or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's Smith. He ended up having something like 13 or 21 targets for like 73 receiving yards in college. 21 targets for he had 3 yards per reception or per target. Like, how do you do that? How is that possible? How do you have 3 yards per target? I mean, he only caught 13 of the 21 balls that were thrown on him on top of that. So he doesn't have good hands. He has terrible hands,
No.
and he doesn't do anything with it when he does get the ball. I mean, that is brutal. How do you do that?
Yeah, and how are people thinking this guy's the next Kamara? It's like 3 yards per catch. Nah, that's not happening.
Remember we were chasing Tony Jones? Like that's the type of thing that we're doing right now by chasing this other undrafted kid. Like it just doesn't make much sense. Go with Mark Ingram. The Saints like him. He knows the system. He's an experienced pass blocker who can protect Jameis Winston if they need that, and so he'll be on the field. And I know that you want to see opportunities on routes run and whatnot for receiving backs, but still, like Mark Ingram will be on the field. He'll see opportunities more so than a lot of these other guys who are taken off the board, such as like a Deonta Foreman. If CMC stays healthy, Chris Carson. We don't even know if Chris Carson is going to play. Snoop Connor just got drafted by Jackson. Like, who is Snoop Connor? Why are people liking him so much? Like, he is the third or fourth running back on that team. It's ridiculous.
He does have a very cool name.
He does have a cool name. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I might just be jealous, you know.
yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. Like, I only got the first name Connor. Imagine my first name was Snoop. Man, that'd be so much cooler.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, man, I might change that. Yeah, so let's have a little look at how we did here, Chase. I think you've done a great job. But let's just finalize it and check the team. So you got Lamar Jackson in as your quarterback. You know, top tier running backs, DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins, and then you got Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman, and Chris Godwin as your wide receivers. Dalton Schultz, who you're predicting to have another massive year at tight end. Gabe Davis and Brandon Cooks, and then Kirk Cousins sitting there as your super flex quarterback. But you got some backups at quarterback as well, which is great. You got Tyler Algier as your running back on your bench. You got Matt Ryan, Davis Mills as some quarterback backup, Kenny Gainwell, and then you got Evan Ingram, Brevin Jordan, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Mark Ingram to round out the draft. Absolutely fantastic job. How you feeling about that draft, Jace?
I feel good. I feel like I wish I would have ended up with one more like higher up receiver just in case things happen, because right now I've got two starters in the same offense, and so that doesn't look great for me. There's also not a capable starter on a bye week if nothing does break my way. However, I do have pieces that I'm able to move for multiple other pieces. So if a Tyler Algier, ends up getting the starting opportunity, I might be able to pick up, I don't know, let's say like a Christian Kirk and Tyler or Adam Thielen type player, something, two guys that could end up adding depth on my team. And I could probably get more than that. It was just the first two names that came to my head. So I can actually acquire multiple valuable pieces if I do see this, and turn a player that we took with the 12th, 13th pick, something like that, into two guys that were worth 7th or 8th round picks,
Yeah.
So I took some risk, and I'm taking some risk by going with the win now team, but also DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins could all end up increasing value, and this could easily give me 2 years worth of winning before I have to rebuild.
Yeah, it certainly looks like a winning team in my eyes anyway. So I think, you've done an absolute brilliant job. And, just wanted to say thanks again, Chase, for coming onto the show and giving everyone your hints and tips, and, just doing an outstanding job. And you just want to remind everybody where they can find you online before you go?
Yeah, you guys can go find my content over there at FF_intervention on Twitter. You guys can go check us out over there at Trophy Smack on Twitter as well, and at Join Our Circle _, where we have plenty of guys over there doing their thing, working. We got our shows on Wednesday nights. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, go check out Trophy Smack over there on Twitter. Make sure you guys subscribe. And Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Facebook. We're going to be giving away 10 spots for the Scott Fish Bowl. Probably do 2 per social media account. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely love it. Make sure you go over there and try and get yourselves entry into the Scott Fish Bowl if you've not done already, and subscribe to all of the stuff that Chase is doing. It's all quality content. And thank you, Chase, once again, and thanks everyone for listening at home. And if you enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did, absolutely smash it at the park. Behind me we got our Hall of Flame, which I know Chase is itching to get onto. We've got our top 3. We got Murph, Jay Stein, and Kev on the top 3. And if you want to see Chase appear in that top 3, then make sure you head over to the YouTube channel, giving this video a thumbs up. The more he gets, the higher up he's going to go. He's got to get into the 20-somethings at the minute to get into the top 3. So definitely doable for Chase. Oh,
jeez. 20-somethings, man? That's tough. That's rough.
It's pretty tricky.
Hit the thumbs up for me, people.
Yeah, come on. Let's get him up there. Let's see if we can get into the top 3. And, thanks everyone for listening. And before we head off and the hot seat cools down, just want to remind everyone listening, keep yourselves and your teams lit, and I'll see you next time. Bye.